How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the channel, Tech with KG. Today we're going through the QN90B and the QN85B's darkroom performance. This is a video that is days in the making. I'm just finally getting around to recording the audio on it. When I tell you guys that I have terabytes and terabytes worth of footage of TVs right now, I am not kidding you. This is the craziest time right now, and it's gonna get even crazier because the QD OLED just shipped, and yeah, man, I need more time. Anybody got some time they can lend me? That would be great. Just a reminder, I'll have the links for all the 2022 TVs in the description below. If you use that website to buy anything at all, it will help out the channel. Thank you guys so much. Before I begin, my camera is in a high ISO mode, which means you will be able to see more instances of blooming, and I'm doing this to show you guys what I'm going to call in this video the blooming area. Not an official term, I really just made it up, so you know, run with it if you want to, I don't care. But let me show you exactly what's going on. Alright, so this first example is one of those iconic LG OLED demos that people like to demonstrate and show the LCD's weakness, and there's no doubt about it, this does start to show some cracks in the LCD foundation with mini LED TVs, or really any TV really. LCD just doesn't do great with OLED demos. I've explained this in the past. What you're seeing right now on the screen is low local dimming, and I just want to point this out. This is going to be the worst one to use for HDR content. Just not going to want to use it. You're going to want to rock with either standard or high. I'll explain the differences of those two in a second, but low is not for HDR. You're not going to want to use it for HDR. You could use it for SDR. It's just fine in SDR, though some people might like standard in SDR. So I just want to point that out. Play around with the local dimming modes, but this whole entire blooming area concept that I'm going to show you guys will really start to show you why you don't want to use local dimming on low. So as you can see on the screen right now, the whole entire image is like lit up with blooming, or the blooming area is lit up, I should say. And this is not looking as bad as it does in person, but it doesn't look great in person either on low local dimming. And this is why you really don't want to use low local dimming on a HDR content. All right, now let's raise this to standard. And you can see that the area has cut down a little bit from where we were with low, and we're starting to use a little bit more of that local dimming power. You also notice that the middle image got brighter, and this is going to be a kind of thing that happens with standard as you're using more local dimming, and it's also tone mapping your image. Now when we go to high, look what's happening here. So it does cut down even more. So we have a more aggressive local dimming algorithm. I'll say this though, with the QN90A last year, that was a super aggressive local dimming algorithm, and we are starting to crush some highlights, crush some details. We're not really seeing that as much here. I actually don't see it that much at all on high. I think high local dimming on the QN90B is fantastic so far, and I really like what it does. And you can notice that the image might have decreased in brightness depending on the content you're watching, because when you're using high local dimming, this does disable some of the tone mapping that is implemented on the Samsung TVs. Now, ultimately, Samsung's tone mapping is undefeatable in its entirety, but when you're using high local dimming, you are disabling some of that. All right, now briefly, I'm going to show you this same exact image, but we're gonna go ahead and put the ISO back down to closer to what I'm seeing. Now this isn't one for one what I'm seeing. It's very hard to replicate what I'm seeing one for one. You may or may not see the blooming. Whatever display you're watching it on is probably going to impact what you're seeing. So that's why I'm showing you the high ISO modes first, because it can show you what it looks like on most displays, I think. Alright, so once again, we're looking at local dimming on low on the same image, but I have adjusted the camera to make it look kind of close to what I'm seeing. And here's the deal with that. The image itself is lifted, in my opinion, from what I'm seeing. I see blooming around the whole entire image for sure, and I also see blooming on the edges of the screen. So this is something that you'll see in person for sure on the QN90B. If you have it set to low local dimming, this scene will definitely present blooming with low local dimming. Now let's go ahead and switch it to standard. So as you see with standard, now where I'm only seeing the blooming is really just on the edge of the stick here. And I will say that in camera, it looks more dramatic than where it looks on the TV right now. So take that as you will. And underneath the stick as well, we see a little bit of blooming on the bottom, on the left side of the screen where the honey ends, and then on the right side of the screen where the honey ends, we see some blooming there as well. And so that is definitely going to be causing some blooming for this scene as well. So let's go ahead and go to high local dimming. Alright, so now we are on high local dimming, and I can tell you that for the most part, what I've seen on these sides, they're really reduced. I'm sure it is there still. You just kind of have a harder time seeing it now. And then underneath the stick, you see a little instance of blooming, but again, it's very faint on local dimming high. And above the stick, that area is still glowing a little bit. Definitely reduced on local dimming high. Okay, so for this next example, we're gonna go ahead and raise the ISO a little bit because I do think this is probably the best way to show you what's going on with the local dimming. And again, we are in low right now. As you can see, there's a lot of blooming off of all of these particle effects for sure, and then off of the chess pieces, all blooming, right? Blooming, definitely blooming. In person, it's not that terrible. I'll tell you that right now. It's not that bad, but it's not great either on low. We're gonna go ahead and switch that now to high. And as you can see now, instead of the whole entire image blooming like crazy, where you're only seeing the blooming areas are off of the particle effects themselves and a little bit off of the chess piece. So there's no doubt about it, there is blooming on this TV, but it's not this bad, all right? This is not what the image looks like. On high, this is what the image looks like here. We get up above our TV to the angle a little bit, we start to see the blooming. And this is not ISO tricks, folks. This is what it's going to look like at an off angle. So if you're somebody who's watching TV, I cannot stress this enough. If you're somebody who's watching TV at off angle views, you will expect to see this on some content. So be aware of that. Now let's go to the QN85B so I could show you some really quick examples of that. This won't take as long, so let me show you the QN85B right now, just so I can show you it has a very similar algorithm to what the QN90B has. It is just an ADS panel, so it suffers a little bit from some contrast issues. Not as bad as what people will say though. I will tell you that with local dimming on high, this thing performs very good, and I think a lot of people will like the black levels that come out of it. Now there is blooming, and there's a little bit more blooming than on the QN90B, but at times it does feel like the QN90B blooms more just because of the amount of brightness that cranks out in those darker scenes, which could lead to more blooming for your eyes. So it really just depends on what you're watching on that sense. Now, so this is what it looks like on low local dimming. As you can see, blooming across the whole entire image, right? Again, we're showing you what the blooming area looks like, not what blooming actually looks like in person. So yes, low local dimming on this TV is very poor. Don't use it on HDR. You're not going to like it. All right, we're going to go ahead and now switch it to standard. You can now see the area has shrunk down, and now there is really only blooming across the highlights on the bottom there on the honey, and then above the stick where we seen it last time, and below the stick. So the edges, not so much blooming anymore. It's really just going to be off of the bright images themselves. That's on standard. And again, standard is going to be brighter from time to time. Now we'll go ahead and switch it to high. And now for sure, you're not seeing the blooming in the corners, on the sides as much. So yeah, the area is shrunk down on the QN85B as well. All right, so in this final example for the QN85B, I want to show you the fireworks scene that I used in the C2 versus QN90B side by side. A lot of people were requesting to see this on the QN85B, so here it is. Straight on, you can see there is still some blooming, not as much as where it was off angle when I showed this on the QN90B, and I'll say it looks pretty similar on the QN90B as well. With this local dimming low, you're gonna see the whole entire screen like pretty much lit up and it's blooming galore. On high, it starts to get really condensed and it's really just gonna be around the small fireworks there, and then on the bottom right of the building there, the one shooting the fireworks up, that has a little bit of blooming on it as well. Where this scene starts to fall apart is when you go off angle on the QN85B, and this will be more dramatic on the QN85B. This is the weakness of the ADS panel. Now, granted, the mini LED VA panel will still have some off-angle blooming as well, as I demonstrated, though not as much as when you are going off angle on the QN85B, as you can see right here. If you guys felt like this video helped you out, please hit the like button and consider subscribing for more future content. I will be getting the QD OLED in a couple of days, and of course we're going to be doing a lot of side-by-sides on this channel with every TV that I have. So whatever you guys want to see, make sure you put that in the comments below, and I can't wait to show you everything that I got in store. I just want to say thank you again to everybody. You guys have been so amazing, and I really appreciate you guys so much. If you want to see more videos on the QN90B or the QN85B or any other 2022 TV, check these videos out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next one.